We welcome a guest of the Young Turks who may have a different opinion about a lot of things politically than we do, but maybe we'll find some common ground, and maybe even better, we won't. We hope to have a good time with Kevin Jackson, the writer of the book The Big Black Lie, and he has a website, theblacksphere.net, I believe. Is that right, Kevin?
That is correct.
theblacksphere.net. So you can go and listen and read all about Kevin there. Kevin, thanks for being on the show today.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm just glad I passed Harry Reid's color test. Is that how I made it?
Well, we don't have a color test here,
okay.
and I'm guessing that Harry doesn't either. But Kevin, tell us a little bit. You are an avowed conservative, and what does that what is the experience like within, because there are not a lot of I would say, out or announced, and you look at the Republican convention, you don't see a lot of black faces in the crowd. What is that like? What is it, are you constantly having to answer for that?
Well, to a degree, yes. The problem, though, is not so much that most blacks are conservative. I mean, when you think about conservative values, you're thinking about, they want their kids to get properly educated. They don't want crime, rampant in their neighborhoods, kids walking through metal detectors to get into schools. They don't want their kids pregnant by age 13. They don't want condoms handed out in the second grade. They don't want your dog to be able to sue you because, he looks a little thin that day, or they don't want to be able to... Well, but those are conservative values. So I think a lot of people are conservative.
All of those values are not exclusively conservative. Maybe some of them are, but...
Well, I mean, so let me put it to you this way.
Yeah.
On the liberal side of things, that's where you find those types of things. You find that liberals are okay with, a guy that wants to date 13-year-old girls like Woody Allen or Polanski. Whoopi Goldberg made the comment, let's make sure we know the whole story about Polanski that gave Quaaludes to a young girl and then raped her.
So you're saying, wait a minute, you're saying that that's the liberal point of view because Whoopi said that and she's a liberal. But Whoopi is also black, and you're saying that's not the black point of view. So does Whoopi just speak for liberals? Does she speak for everybody that looks like Whoopi? Are we now...
No, I value Whoopi on the way she votes. I don't value her on her color because I don't look at Whoopi's color. If I didn't know Whoopi Goldberg from Susan Sarandon, I would think Whoopi Goldberg was a Jewish lady.
But you can't take one person...
The point is, I read a story about Whoopi Goldberg making a point that Polanski, she needed to hear the entire story about Polanski. Meaning that it's okay for a 40-something-year-old, 50-something-year-old man to pursue 13-year-old girls, give them Quaaludes and rape them, and then skip off to the other side of the country.
So
and by the way, not just limited to her.
So if one liberal says that she wants to hear the whole story on Roman Polanski, liberals approve of sex with 13-year-olds. That's the reasoning we're going to embrace on Martin Luther King Day.
That particular liberal does. There's other particular liberals that say that, it's okay to have black nationalists who are the equivalent of the Aryan nation in the president's cabinet. I don't find that too appealing for an America that I believe should not be looking at people based on color.
But so, Kevin Jackson, if following your logic, and it's one about which you seem quite passionate, then because Rush Limbaugh says that we already give enough aid to Haiti, it's called the U.S. tax code, then we should just sit on our hands and our wallets right now. Is that right?
I'll put it to you this way. We're not sitting on our hands and our wallets because unlike other countries, America not only responds by giving taxpayer money, but it's up to the individual to decide what else that they want to do. But if you want to go a step farther into what Rush says, Rush is right. A lot of dollars do go, the taxpayers' money goes to foreign things that the American people have nothing to do with.
But is not, and I'm asking you this objectively, is not the welfare of our neighbors in countries that mean something to us, where immigrants are from, and where we have sort of good political and social relations, is not their welfare part of our welfare?
Sure, it is. But let me ask you this: I've traveled all over the world. You want to know what I've never seen? I've never seen a commercial that says, help America's poor African-American kids who can't get educated or who don't have enough to eat. Now, I've seen us run commercials that say, feed the kids in Africa, feed the kids in Angola, feed the kids in, Nepal, feed the kids in so-and-so. but I've never, in all my travels, and I've been to 28 different countries in Africa, I've been to Europe, I've been to essentially all the continents, I've watched TV, I speak 3 different languages, I've never seen a commercial that says, help America. When our financial system went bust, you know what I heard? I heard people laughing. When people ran their planes into the World Trade Centers, you know what I saw on worldwide TV? People in countries laughing at America.
I don't think
when you talk about the goodwill of what countries should be doing, let's also remind ourselves that goodwill should come back towards America, don't you think?
Well, I absolutely do. I think that when you are the richest country in the world, though, that in general people turn to you as if you had a rich relative, you would turn to that rich relative in a time of extreme need.
Okay, and is it that rich relative's obligation to help you?
Kevin, let me finish a little bit, and then I'll let you speak again. I'm answering your question. I think it's an interesting an interesting picture you paint, certainly, that you don't see pleas for American kids. I think that there's a worldwide perception that America should be taking care and can take care of their own. And as we know, that doesn't always happen. And I don't know the extent of it. I don't know if religious groups do that, and there are worldwide religious groups. I can't speak to that. But what I can say is that when you are talking about seeing people all over the world laughing, it was anecdotal, the people that were laughing at the United States when 9/11 happened, the World Trade Center went down, and the Pentagon was a mess.
Where'd the money come from? I didn't see any.
I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about people laughing. The world was not laughing at us then. I'm just making that correction.
And let me ask, in terms of who helped us, say, for after Katrina, Bangladesh donated humanitarian aid. I'm just picking countries that were random from a website. Bangladesh donated humanitarian aid worth $1 million. Belgium sent 3 medical teams of 31 personnel. Brunei donated $1 million. You can tell I'm in the.
I can tell you're digging into the bowels of it. So
what I'm doing is digging into facts.
There are no bowels. I mean, it's the same bowel that you're digging into, Kevin.
See, what we love here on the Young Turks is difference of opinion. But what we insist on in the Young Turks is accuracy of facts. So what I'm digging into are the facts regarding your statement that nobody provided aid to us in our time of need.
Let me restate what I said. I said I have yet to see a commercial where they are running programs that say, let's help America's young inner-city black children to get education, to get their next meals, etc. That's what I said.
Well, the level of poverty.
America helps the world at 10 times the rate of every other country in the world, yet we always have to answer the question of what are we doing to help? Let me give you another thing to think about, guys. The reason why America is such a great country is because all those other cultures have come here. They are amassing their own wealth, many of whom are putting that money back into their own cultures. They're going back, putting the educational systems that they get from America into their own cultures, and they're giving back in that way. That's what America is about.
Well, that's what your America is about, and I agree with you about that. But I also agree with you that as an American,
your America too.
Well, it's my America too. But I'm just saying that there are parts of my America, or the way I view my country, maybe that's a better way of putting it, Kevin, where I think that it's great to be part of a country where money from my country is going on an official and political basis to other countries in the world that need it.
We don't have any disagreement with that.
Okay. Well, it sounded as if we did, and perhaps it was just miscommunication.
I love the fact that America rises to the occasion every single time.
Let's talk about a hypothetical. If Kevin Jackson were to sit down with Martin Luther King Jr., and I'm only doing this because it's today, if you two were to sit down, what common ground as a black conservative that you are, as a black conservative sitting down with the leader or de facto leader of the civil rights movement of the 50s and 60s, what common ground would you imagine that the two of you had?
It'd be probably easier to pick things that we didn't have common ground on. Martin Luther King and I are in lockstep. We believe that people should be judged by the content of their character, but what I will tell you is this. The left believes that Martin Luther King was some bastion of liberalism and a Democrat, when in fact his core values and everything, that all the virtues that he espoused were things that came from the way blacks thought in the 50s and going forward. And I'll tell you a little secret. Had the black family been left to itself in the 50s, we'd be people, we'd be a lot more, have a lot more CEOs running companies. We'd have a lot better home ownership. We'd have a lot fewer teenage pregnancies, a lot fewer abortions, a lot more people, doing those types of things.
Can you actually? I find that a compelling point. Can you expand on that and what makes you say that? Why do you think that?
Well, for many reasons. If you look at so right now today, in America, blacks lead in practically every negative cultural category per capita. So, for example, teenage pregnancy, we lead. High school dropout rates, we lead. College entrance rates, we have the fewest. College graduation rates, we have the fewest. Home ownership, we have the fewest. Business starts, we have the fewest. Highest level of abortion, 19% average in the U.S., 41% in the black community. 10% unemployment in America, 31% unemployment.
No, I hear you. I just mean what about when you were talking about the black family in the 1950s? What about that specifically? How did that change for people who don't know about it? And what supports your thesis about that?
There were two things that happened to the black family in the 50s. The first thing was what happened earlier in the 40s under FDR. And what a lot of people in your audience probably don't understand is that my grandparents who raised me, they worked, my grandfather would have to pick 100 pounds of cotton in a bag at least per day. And cotton is a light little thing in a bowl if you've never seen it actually picked. And my grandmother made 50 cents and my grandfather made $1. That's how much they got paid. So think about this in the early 20s and 30s. And then all of a sudden in the 40s, you get these things called Social Security and you get unemployment and things like this. If you're making $20 a week as a white worker and you get unemployment and they pay you, $5 a week, to go draw unemployment, you look at that as, wait a minute, I can't pay my bills. But when you make $1 a day and somebody says, I'm going to pay you not to work, and oh, by the way, it's equivalent to what you're used to making. That was the first slippery slope for blacks, okay? The second slippery slope came in what's called the Great Society, which is under LBJ, the same guy who said he'd have them, N-words voting Democrats for the next 200 years. It's technically the Ungreat Society that led into the Ingrate Society, because blacks believed at that time that government replaced the father figure and replaced the family and all the core values, the things that should take care of a person, your community, your church, your friends, your family, and a last resort should be the government. For black people of this generation, the first resort is the government. And then you go chase down Pookie if you can figure out who else, how many other girls he's gotten pregnant and how much you may be able to get out of him if he's got a job.
Kevin, since you and Dr. King are in lockstep, am I to assume you agree that Dr. King was right when he said traditional capitalism has created conditions permitting necessities to be taken from many to give luxuries to the few, and has encouraged small-hearted men to become cold and conscienceless?
We don't. First of all, when I said I would have more things that I could tell you I don't agree, lesser things I could tell you I don't agree with than I agree with. So let's just make sure we get my quotes right. With respect to Dr. King, on capitalism, I don't agree with him. He had communistic leanings because of the way that he grew up, where people had been deprived. That America that he was in is no longer in existence, my friend. America has more black millionaires and billionaires and mega-rich black people than in any concentration in the world, including Africa, who's got more black people than anybody.
So when you said that you and he were in lockstep, you really meant...
we were in lockstep in many ways of our thought.
You meant you believe you would be in lockstep had he lived up to the present.
If Dr. King were still alive and had the evolution of black people occurred the way he envisioned it, he would not be decrying capitalism, because black people would be a big part of capitalism. When you are not allowed to work at a job in the 1950s, and you can only be at a certain level, janitorial or some menial job grade, because you're black and you got to enter through the back door, that's not the world he envisioned. But if he saw black men in suits walking in Wall Street, going in the front door, heading up, to their desk as CEO, he'd have no problem with capitalism, because it would be giving back to all. Capitalism back in his day was not giving to anybody. I mean, not giving to blacks. It was only for the elite.
So,
and the non-blacks. I mean, yeah, it's essentially the non-blacks.
Kevin Jackson, in wrapping up with you, I want to ask you, we're certainly not going to agree, and that's fine because we don't have to agree. I don't feel a movement in your direction at all in the way I think, certainly, and I don't know that it's happening in your community either, but perhaps it is. But the question I have for you today is Martin Luther King Day, and stepping away from the things that we do not, agree on. What does it mean to you as a black conservative in America in 2010? What does Martin Luther King Jr. Day mean to you?
I treasure this day. The fact that that this country would honor a person of his magnitude, I think is a great thing. The fact that it was done by a Republican president, I think, is a phenomenal thing. The fact that and people don't realize this, the Conyers asked for this in 1968. And when the Democrats had the House and the Senate and the presidency, and they denied it for 15 years.
Well, it's all about again, it's not as simple as that. There were many Republican governors and many Democratic governors who didn't want to enact it.
They fought it over union issues, and we can debate it all we want.
It doesn't. I asked you not to put politics into it, but I guess it all comes back to politics.
If you're asking me just in a normal situation,
that's exactly what I was asking you. But you brought up Republicans and Democrats.
It's a great day for America. Not for black Americans. It's a great day for America, and it's a person of his stature would be honored with a day.
Okay.
We agree on that.
We agree on that. Kevin Jackson, the website is blacksphere.net, and the book is The Big Black Lie. And thank you for taking the time to be with us.
Thanks, guys.
Well, I disagree.
When machines and computers, profit motives, and property rights are considered more important than people, the giant triplets of racism, materialism, and militarism are incapable of being conquered, said Martin Luther King.
There we go. You're listening to the Young Turks.